Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat. Resolves.
Thank you.
Now, before you attack
Does
me,
anyone have an answer?
well played.
Good game.
Hello everyone, DJ here, Jumbo Commander YouTube channel. Let's jump right into the top 10 list, best commander cards of 2020. First thing we got to talk about is the push that WotC made to make white a better color. We have a lot of 4-drops I'm calling out: Luminous Broodmoth, Mangara the Diplomat, and Keeper of the Accord. We gotta ask ourselves, did they do a good job at shoring up white's weaknesses? I think we actually got a long way to go, but I'm really glad to see these powerful cards coming in. And the 4-drop slot is really good for Commander, because a lot of times we're ramping early and 4 is sort of our first big impactful play, so I'm happy to see these cards in 2020. Now I want to talk about my favorite removal spell of 2020. It's Elspeth Conquers Death. 3 white for an enchantment saga. Exile target permanent and opponent controls. It's got a restriction that it has to hit things with CMC 3 or greater, but in Commander that's basically hitting everything. And then it basically hampers your opponent's ability to play stuff. I love taxing non-creature spells. And then finally, return target creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to the battlefield. You get a +1/+1 counter or a loyalty counter on it. This is a solid 2-for-1 on an enchantment. And you know what? I've been really underwhelmed with a lot of the white enchantment-based removals, like things like Oblivion Ring. They're great in so many different formats, but in Commander, there's so much artifact and enchantment destruction. There's so much incidental enchantment destruction that Oblivion Ring is not a permanent answer. It's a temporary one, and it makes me sad. Also, the fact that Elspeth Conquers Death is a permanent answer means that it can be blinked in and out or flickered really well. Yorion Sky Nomad came out this year as well, and it fits in particularly well. This has me harkening back to a card not this year, but the previous year, the Eldest Reborn, and that's a favorite of mine as well, so I've gotta love Elspeth Conquers Death. This has also been the year for amazing Commander lands. I'm not talking about the double-face lands from Zendikar, although they're good as well, but the completion of the Battle Bond cycle of comes into play untapped if you have 2 or more opponents. Oh, so good. These coming in Commander Legends are also really inexpensive too, so pick them up. But I think my favorite lands of the year have to be the Triomes from Ikoria. And I think a little bit of it has to do with how beautiful this alternate art is. I love this art style. It speaks to me. So these Triomes are amazing. They have land types on them. Swamp, Forest, Island, so good. And people have been undervaluing cycling for a long time. Cycling is awesome. So embrace cycling, embrace relatively inexpensive, powerful lands that look beautiful. The next wonderful thing was the return of Monarch. This mechanic is spectacular in Commander. It's political, it's fun, it gets people attacking, it moves the game forward. I love it. We have 2 cards that have put the Monarch at 3 CMC. That's really early on. And so when I'm talking about people developing out their boards a little bit in the later game, you could already be drawing cards and securing the Monarch with Fall from Favor and Court of Cunning. I also love the Monarch mechanic in white and red decks because they might need a little bit of help in card draw, so Court of Grace is great in white, and I wanted to shout out Emberwild Captain because it's incredibly inexpensive and really plays into red, dealing damage, but you also have that Monarch mechanic which keeps you in the game. This was also a year for Hate Bears, some of the most hateful we have seen. Draneth Magistrate, a 2-drop that says your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. That includes the Command Zone, cringe, Hull Breacher, interrupting your opponent's draw and giving you treasure, Opposition Agent, messing with your opponent's ability to search their libraries, giving you clean 2-for-1s, controlling them and stealing stuff from their deck. These cards cause so much anxiety in the entire player base. I wonder how good they'll be, how ubiquitous they'll be going forward, but they certainly are powerful effects that we have to watch out for. Next, I cannot shout the praises of double-faced cards enough. The fact that you can have a land drop, but also a relevant spell in a single card is so good. I haven't even shouted out the mythic versions of this. These are all uncommons and rares, and the budget on these is very, very low. They're all coming in under $2. Bala Ged Recovery is one of the best green spells you can have in your deck because at its base, it's just a tapped forest. It's so good. I love Valakut Awakening, giving you that card drawn red. Ondu Inversion, you know, sometimes you need to clear the board in white, but sometimes you just need to make sure you get your land drops because white doesn't have very good ramp. Glasspool Mimic is great. You don't always have something you want to copy on your side of the battlefield. And then Malakir Rebirth. This is going to be a land drop a lot of the time, but I love the ability of just holding this in the late game. I don't need any more land drops, but I do need to protect this Gaunty. Gaunty. Or any other creature. It just gives you that level of protection, but all of the baselines on these cards is that they're lands. So good. You know, I'm a big proponent for running 37 to 39 lands in a commander deck, but you know, it feels really good to run a couple of these and sit at 35 lands. In 2020, we had more mentions of commanders in the card text than ever before. I think the card that made the biggest wave is Fierce Guardianship. 2 and a blue for an instant. If you control a commander, you may cast the spell without paying its mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. This is defense we need for our commanders. It's so good to have free spells. And 1 extra mana for a negate is not even that bad. I also like Deflecting Swat. It's another level of protection, but Fierce Guardianship just kind of protects better. And then we also had a call out to our commanders in Commander Legends. Jessica's Will has been one that's really impressed me. It's 2 and a red for a sorcery. Choose one if you control a commander. You get to choose both. Add red for each card in target opponent's hand. Sometimes that can just net you a couple red mana, which is all you need. But I've had this generate me 5 or 6 extra mana. It has been crazy sometimes. Then exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Again, might not be as good as Light Up the Stage, but the versatility of this card and that if you control a commander text is really cool. Next on my list, we have quite possibly the most powerful card printed this year, Thassa's Oracle. Blue, 1/3. Basically, if the cards in your library is less than or equal to your devotion to blue, you win the game. It becomes this new laboratory maniac, and it's better because it hits the battlefield and that trigger can win you the game with an empty library. Laboratory Maniac could always be killed as you sort of draw your last card. And so Thassa's Oracle became a mainstay in competitive Commander. In fact, it has been everywhere. And I don't know if everyone loved the inclusion of Thassa's Oracle, but it's kind of a riff on a way to win that's already been in the format. It definitely is a little bit better, gives you fewer feel-bads, and no one can deny the ubiquity and power level of this card. Now, right before I announce my final card, I'd like to say that 2020 has been a pretty bad year. I think for everyone, definitely for myself. Magic hasn't been perfect either. But you know what? It's been pretty fun. And all of you have been pretty great. So, thank you. Thank you for being there. All right, let's talk about the best card of 2020. It is the most commandery card that I have ever seen. It's a lithiform engine. 4 mana for a legendary artifact. You can pay 2 and copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. You can tap 3 and copy target instant or sorcery spell, new targets, and then you can tap 4 to copy target permanent spell you control. So this copies everything. I just love that it's a combination Rings of Brighthearth and Strionic Resonator. By the way, shout out to Rings of Brighthearth getting reprinted, so good. But just, you crack a fetch land and then suddenly you can fetch another land or activate a Planeswalker's ability. You guys like Panharmonicon? Of course you do. How about just an easy activation of Lithiform Engine to do your best Panharmonicon impression of copying those triggered abilities, those enter the battlefield effects. You like casting spells? How about doubling up those spells? Also coming out this year was Twinning Staff. I think that this is an underrated, fun commander card as well. Just imagine doubling up all of your copies. And then also look at the rate for copying on Twinning Staff. 7 in tap to copy a spell. Lithiform Engine is coming in at a reasonable price. And there are not many other cards out there that can copy permanent spells. So any creature, you're doubling them up. Do I want 2 Elspeth Conquers Death entering the battlefield? And do I want to copy the triggers at the end? Yes, all of that, yes. This is so commandery. It's so versatile. It's so do nothing. It's the perfect card. All right, everyone, this is my review of the best commander things in 2020. And honestly, I think we've got a lot of really good tools. Look, I'm not saying that this year was perfect for Magic, and they could definitely do a lot better. But looking back, this has been a pretty good year of Commander. So thumbs up to WotC. Wishing you all a very happy and safe and healthy 2021. Bye, everyone.